Your life is every member of the Akatsuki. Level 1, the freelancers. You woke up that morning in a roadside inn that didn't ask names, didn't keep records, didn't have a single mirror that worked. Outside, the village was burning quietly the way villages burn when nobody important lives in them. You pulled the black cloak with the red clouds over your shoulders and stepped into the road. 10 people in the world wear this pattern, you are one of them. By nightfall, you will have collected a bounty, killed a man on a religious schedule, or both. The Akatsuki doesn't have a recruitment office. It has openings. Someone died. You filled the slot. And now your life follows the cloak from the bottom of the ladder all the way to the masked figure who designed the whole thing. You are Hidan and Kakuzu. You're paired because nobody else wanted you. Kakuzu had already buried 3 previous partners and not in a respectful way. He kept what was useful and threw the rest into rivers. Hidan was technically immortal, which solved the partner burying problem, and Kakuzu found this acceptable, the way one finds it acceptable that the dog can't actually be killed but also won't shut up. Together, you're the freelancers of Akatsuki, the hitmen tier. You take outside contracts, collect bounties, and send the money back to the leader to fund a goal you've never really asked about and don't really care about. Coin clears. The rest of them work for something harder to cash, and you've decided that's their problem. As Hidan, you serve Jashin, a religion with one commandment, and that commandment is murder, performed slowly, with a circle drawn in your own blood and a spear through your own chest. When the ritual binds you to the target, every wound you take, they take. You stab yourself for hours and laugh through every minute. The corpse on the other end of the curse stops laughing fairly early. As Kakuzu, you have lived almost 100 years by stealing hearts. 5 of them currently beat inside your body, each one stolen from someone who wanted to keep it. You can stitch your own limbs back on. You can run an economy off bounty heads like baseball stats, and the only thing that genuinely upsets you is when Hidan gets captured and lowers your output. You don't see Akatsuki as a brotherhood. You see it as a stable employer with good payroll and slightly dramatic co-workers. Then one day a Konoha team shows up in a forest, Hidan gets buried in a hole he can't climb out of, and Kakuzu loses all 5 hearts in a single fight to a boy with yellow lightning in his hand. The freelancer tier ends not because you ran out of contracts, but because you ran out of bodies. Fine. You weren't here for the cause anyway. Level 2. You are Sasori and Deidara, and you both believe you are artists. You just disagree on what art is. Deidara thinks art is a single instant of light and noise that erases the thing it touches. Sasori thinks art is the thing that doesn't erase, the figure preserved forever, the body refusing to rot. You spend years arguing this in the desert, on the road, in caves, because neither of you can let it go. As Sasori, you grew up in Sunagakure waiting for parents who were already dead. Your grandmother taught you the basics of puppet craft, you taught yourself the rest, because the basics weren't enough to bring anyone back. By the time you understood that you could not bring them back, you had already turned yourself into a puppet too. Wood, joints, lacquered shell, one beating core where the heart used to be. You carry 100 human puppets inside one larger puppet, and one of them is the 3rd Kazekage himself, whose iron sand still moves when you flex what's left of your hands. You are the only Akatsuki who used to be a leader's killer before joining. Promotion comes naturally to you. As Deidara, you stole the forbidden scroll of Iwagakure as a teenager, learned a kinjutsu that put mouths in the palms of your hands, and decided that what the world really needed was clay sculptures that explode. You call it C1, C2, C3, all the way up to C0, which is your own body, and you never want to use C0, you just want everyone to know you could. You and Sasori argue for the entire ride to capture the Kazekage. The Kazekage is now Gaara. You take him, you drain him of the one tail, and then Sasori dies on his own grandmother's blade, smiling, because the puppet finally got to be loved by the puppeteer. Deidara walks away with a new partner he doesn't want, and a missing arm he won't replace for free. The art keeps going, the artists keep dying. Level 3. You are Orochimaru, and you got out first. You were a child genius of Konoha, a student of the 3rd Hokage, one of the legendary Sannin. The villagers used to point at you in the street as the boy who was going to be Hokage one day.
The third chose someone else, and something in you read the room and quietly walked into a basement. You joined Akatsuki early, before the cloak had cultural weight, before anyone else mattered. You were paired with Sasori. You watched the organization assemble its first real lineup, and you noticed something the others didn't notice. There was a man with Sharingan eyes in the founding circle, and the man was too young to have them honestly. You decided you wanted those eyes. You went to take them. He showed you, in approximately 3 seconds, what those eyes actually did. You ran. You don't talk about it. You took the ring off your finger, and you disappeared into your own laboratory, where the rules of bodies were softer than the rules of the Akatsuki. And you began the project you actually cared about all along. You wanted every jutsu in the world. You wanted every body in the world. You wanted to learn forever, and to learn forever, you needed to live forever. So you started transferring your soul into new vessels. You called it research. The villages called it the reason their children went missing. You are the only Akatsuki member who left of your own decision, while alive, and stayed alive long enough to regret nothing. You are also the only one who, years later, will get reabsorbed into a teenager named Sasuke, and persist as a passenger consciousness, because even your defeats are negotiations. The organization moved on without you. The cloak fit someone else now. You didn't mind. You had bodies of your own to wear. Level 4. You are Kisame, and your job is to be the man who arrives behind the quieter man. You stand a head and a half taller than every shinobi you meet. Your skin is the color of deep water, gills on the cheeks, eyes too small for the face, teeth filed into a row of points. You carry Samhata on your back, the sword that breathes, the sword that does not cut so much as scrape chakra out of a body and feed it to you. You were a Mist Village assassin in the Cipher Division before this, and you killed your own teammates on orders, and then you killed the man who gave the orders when you found out the orders were a lie. After that you stopped trusting causes, you started trusting people. One specific person, you were paired with Itachi, and from the moment you understood that you would never be the smartest one in the room with him, you decided that you would be the most loyal one. You walked behind him across the 5 nations, you sat outside the rooms where he did the talking, you laughed too loud at jokes he didn't make. When civilians saw you in a village, they didn't run from Itachi, they ran from you. Itachi looked like a thoughtful young man in a black cloak. You looked like what was about to happen to them. And that was the arrangement. He was the precision. You were the volume. Then one day you got cornered in a cave in the land of lightning, and Killer Bee and his brother were closing in. And you had a choice. And you took it. You bit through your own tongue, summoned every shark you owned, and drowned yourself rather than let them open you up and read the secrets in your head. You died smiling, because the loyalty had never been to Akatsuki. It had been to one man in a black cloak, who had already by then been dead for some time. Level 5. You are Itachi, and you are the one the others quietly defer to, even though officially you outrank no one. You were Anbu captain at 13. You massacred your entire clan at 13 as well. In one night, in one operation, sanctioned by the village you were supposed to be betraying. You left one survivor, your little brother. Mercy had nothing to do with it. You needed someone to grow up hating you enough to kill you cleanly when the time came. He fit. You joined Akatsuki the next morning. You wore the cloak because the cloak put you close to the man who actually controlled everything. The man in the orange spiral mask. The man who had helped you with the massacre, and who you intended to keep an eye on from the inside. You are a double agent so deep that even your handlers don't know who you really work for. You watch Sasori die. You watch Deidara lose an arm. You watch your partner Kisame stand at your shoulder and trust you absolutely. And you accept that trust because rejecting it would be its own kind of cruelty. You meet Sasuke in an inn. You let him hit you. You let him think it cost him something. The whole time, you are already coughing blood into your sleeve because the illness you've been hiding for years is finally collecting its debt. The final fight is staged. You arrange the lighting, the weather, the dialogue, the techniques he would need, and the moment you would die. The illness arranged the rest. You pressed 2 fingers to his forehead one last time the way you did when he was 4. And you said you were sorry, and you let your body fall. He thought he won. You meant for him to. Your name will be remembered as the clan killer for years, and then it will be remembered as something else. And that revision will happen long after you stop existing. You don't get to see it. You didn't expect to. Level 6. You are Konan. And you are the only Akatsuki member who is still a person. You grew up an orphan in Amagakure during a war that nobody bothered to give a real name to. Because the war was just the weather there. 3 children survived on the rain-soaked streets. You were one. Nagato was the second. Yahiko was the third. A traveling sannin named Jiraiya found you and taught you to be ninja for 3 years and then left, because that's what teachers in this world do. You built the original Akatsuki together, the 3 of you, and it wasn't a criminal organization yet. It was a peace movement with knives. Yahiko was the leader. Yahiko believed. Then Hanzo of the Salamander took you hostage, and forced Nagato to choose between killing you or watching Yahiko die. And Yahiko impaled himself on Nagato's blade to spare him the choice. And that was the moment Akatsuki became what it is now. You watched Nagato curl into a body that wouldn't move on its own anymore. Plugged into a machine. Watched him invent the 6 paths of pain to walk the world in his place. You stayed. You folded paper into wings, into ranged weapons, into messages, into the shape of an angel. Because Yahiko had liked the word. You served the man your friend had become. Because the alternative was being alone with the memory of a 3rd child who never got to grow up. Years later, after Nagato dies, Obito comes for you. He wants the Rinnegan in Nagato's eyes. You fight him in your own village for a full day and a full night, in rain that hasn't stopped in 20 years, and you lose. Before he takes the eyes, you tell him you believe in a different future. He tells you that's nice, and kills you anyway. You die in the rain, in the country you tried to save, surrounded by paper that won't fly anymore. You were the last Akatsuki who remembered why the cloak existed in the first place. Level 7. You are pain, and pain is 6 bodies sharing one mind. The mind belongs to Nagato, who has not stood up in a decade. The bodies belong to people he met once. Dead now, kept alive by black chakra receivers driven into their skulls. Each path is a tool. The Diva path moves things with gravity and brings them back. The technique that flattens villages and revives the dead in the same breath. The Azura path is a weapon factory built into a man. The others are smaller. Animal summons. Preta eats jutsu off you midcast. Human reads your mind and then removes it. Naraka interrogates the dead, and the dead answer. You walk into a village with 6 bodies at once, and you are, for practical purposes, a small god. Your eyes are the Rinnegan, which Nagato did not earn, which were placed in him by a man wearing an Uchiha Madara mask in a meeting Nagato barely remembers. You believe pain is the only universal language. You believe a world that hasn't suffered enough will keep starting wars. So your plan is to give the world a single, shared wound, large enough that the wars stop. You walk into Konohagakure with the 6 bodies, ask politely where the 9 tails Jinchuriki lives, and when nobody tells you, you flatten the entire village in a single technique. Shinra Tensei. Everything within 1,000 meters becomes a crater. You kill Jiraiya, your old teacher, when he comes for you, and you take no satisfaction from it. You meet Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who carries the same dream that Yahiko carried, and you have a conversation about pain that goes on longer than the fight. He talks you down. Not by beating you, by being the version of Yahiko that lived. You give your life back to the village you destroyed, you revive every person you killed that day, and the chakra cost finishes Nagato. Konan carries his body home in the rain, the cloak gets passed up one more rung. You weren't the top. You only thought you were. Final level. You are Tobi. You wear an orange spiral mask with a single eye hole, you bounce around the Akatsuki base making jokes that nobody laughs at. You are Deidara's least favorite assignment. You trip over your own feet in serious meetings. Everyone treats you like a mascot. The mask is doing a lot of work. Behind the mask you are Obito Uchiha, who was supposed to die under a rock as a 13-year-old in the Third Shinobi War, who was instead pulled out by an old man calling himself Madara, who watched his only friend's last act of love get turned into a kunai through your only love's chest, and who decided in that moment that this world was not worth letting continue. You are also, when nobody is looking, in conversation with a plant creature named Zetsu, the white half cheerful and the black half older than recorded history,
both of them feeding you instructions written by Kagaya Otsutsuki herself before any of you were born. Zetsu walks behind you in every room, Zetsu whispers in every ear. Zetsu was the leak that turned Hanzo against the original Akatsuki, the rumor that made Itachi murder his clan, the patient gardener tending the entire war for the woman who would be unsealed by the casting of the infinite Tsukiyomi. You don't know that yet. You think the plan is yours. The plan is to collect all 9-tailed beasts, recombine them into the 10 tails, become its Jinchuriki, and project a genjutsu into the moon, strong enough to put every conscious mind in the world to sleep in a dream where their loved ones are still alive. You call it peace, Pain called it pain. Yahiko called it Akatsuki. The words keep changing, the body count keeps rising, and the gardener keeps smiling. You walk through the 4th shinobi war with the 10 tails on your back, and you almost finish. Naruto and Sasuke and the rest of a generation you helped to traumatize meet you in a field and beat the dream out of you piece by piece. In your last minutes, Kakashi forgives you, you die looking at the same sky Rin died under, and you whisper that you wanted to be Hokage, and nobody is left in your cohort to hear it. Zetsu uses your body to free Madara, Madara uses Madara to free Kaguya, the gardener finishes the work.
The mask comes off, the mask comes off, the mask, and underneath it all, is a woman who was filed away 10,000 years ago by her own children. Akatsuki was always her hand, and that's the Akatsuki career ladder, 10 S-ranked criminals, a peace movement that ended in genocide, a global conspiracy to put everyone to sleep, and at the very top of it, the entire organization turns out to have been someone else's gardening tool, brutal, efficient, and apparently just one Uchiha away from being absorbed by a god. The cloak gets folded one last time. The red clouds were never about blood, they would just shape. Someone had to wear them. Today it was you, tomorrow, no one. The pattern stays.